The decision had been brewing for months, a slow, agonizing poison seeping into the foundations of my life. Now, it had finally crystallized into an undeniable truth. I couldn't be her safety net anymore. The phrase tasted like metal in my mouth, cold and sharp, as if speaking it aloud might sever the last, brittle thread connecting me to Lena. My apartment, once a haven of quiet solitude, had become a cage, the bars forged from my own misplaced empathy and her escalating instability. Lena arrived almost a year ago, fresh from a series of personal calamities, a job loss, a minor car accident, a sudden eviction from her shared flat due to what she vaguely termed unforeseen circumstances. She was a whirlwind of tears and apologies, her vulnerability a potent weapon she wielded with unconscious precision. We'd broken up 6 months prior, a slow fizzle rather than an explosive end, but a part of me, the part that remembered the vibrant, kind woman she once was, felt responsible. I offered her a couch, a temporary refuge, a week, maybe 2. That was 11 months ago. The initial weeks weren't bad. She was quiet, mostly confined to the living room, grateful. Then came the subtle shifts. Her gratitude morphed into expectation, her quiet into a possessive silence that echoed through the apartment. She started leaving her things in my bathroom, in my bedroom closet, a slow, insidious colonization. When I gently brought it up, she'd dissolve into tears, muttering about how I was pushing her out when she had nowhere else to go. I'd back down, my resolve crumbling under the weight of her helplessness. The real shift, the one that truly began to curdle my stomach, was her paranoia. It started innocuously enough. A comment about the downstairs neighbor watching her, a suspicion that her former colleagues were sabotaging her job search. Then it escalated. She'd insist I keep the blinds drawn even on sunny days, convinced someone was looking in. She'd dissect every phone call I made, every text I received, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Who was that?" she'd demand, her voice tight. "Are you talking about me?" My social life withered. Friends stopped coming over, sensing the strained atmosphere, Lena's icy stares from the couch, her interrupting comments. Calls became quick whispers in the hallway, hushed secrets. I found myself making excuses, cancelling plans, retreating further into the confines of my own home, a home that increasingly felt less like mine and more like a shared prison. One evening, I found her standing by my desk, her fingers hovering over my open laptop. My heart hammered against my ribs. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She flinched, pulling her hand back as if burned. "Nothing. Just. I thought I heard something outside. Just checking the security." The laptop screen showed my personal email, an inbox she had no business being in. Her excuse was thin, translucent, but I let it slide, my fear warring with a desperate hope that I was overreacting. Then came the night of the key. I had arrived home late from a mandatory work dinner, exhausted and ready for bed. The moment I stepped through the door, I knew something was wrong. The air was cold, despite the temperate weather. The living room was eerily neat, almost too neat. Lena was asleep on the couch, or pretending to be. I went to lock the deadbolt, a habit, and my fingers met only air. The key wasn't in the lock. I checked the small hook beside the door where I always hung it. Empty. My heart began to pound a frantic rhythm. I searched frantically, my mind racing through possibilities. Did I drop it outside? Had Lena taken it? Why? I found it eventually, tucked under a cushion on the couch, deliberately hidden. I stared at it, then at Lena's sleeping form, a tremor running through me. This wasn't accidental. This was a message. A silent, terrifying statement of control. She wanted me to feel vulnerable. She wanted me to know she could lock me in, or out. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I was not safe. Not with her here. Not anymore. That was the night I resolved to ask her to leave. It was no longer about her welfare. It was about mine. My sanity, my safety, my very ability to breathe in my own home. The next morning, the air was thick with unspoken words. Lena was unusually cheerful, humming softly as she made tea, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. I waited until after breakfast, needing the caffeine to steel my nerves. "Lena," I began, my voice cracking slightly. She turned, a sweet smile on her face. "Yes. We need to talk," I continued, forcing myself to meet her gaze. "About you staying here." Her smile faltered, replaced by a subtle hardening around her eyes. What about it? You've been here for almost a year now, I said, trying to keep my tone even, rational. And it's not working anymore. You need to find your own place. The silence that followed was deafening, stretching taut between us, vibrating with unspoken fury. Her expression remained blank for a beat too long, then slowly, terrifyingly, it shifted. The corners of her mouth turned down, her eyes narrowing into slits. After everything I've been through, she hissed, her voice low and dangerous. After you promised to help me, you're just going to throw me out onto the streets. I never promised anything indefinite, I countered, my voice gaining strength with my fear. I offered temporary help. This isn't temporary anymore, Lena. And it's not healthy for either of us. Healthy? She scoffed, a mirthless sound. You think this is healthy? You think lying to me, bringing people into my home, talking about me behind my back is healthy? My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? And this isn't your home. Oh, isn't it? She sneered, stepping closer, her face contorted. I've been here longer than some of your precious friends. I know your routines. I know your secrets. And I know you're trying to get rid of me. But it won't be that easy. She walked past me, a chillingly deliberate brush of her arm against mine, and retreated to the living room. The conversation was over. Or rather, it had just begun. The next few days were a living nightmare. Lena didn't pack. She didn't look for apartments. Instead, she became a phantom presence, always there, always watching. I'd find her standing silently in the doorway of my bedroom at night, her silhouette bathed in the dim hallway light, just staring. When I asked what she was doing, she'd whisper, "Couldn't sleep. Just checking on you." My coffee started tasting odd, faintly metallic. My shower water would inexplicably turn scalding hot or icy cold mid-wash. Small, disquieting incidents. I'd find items moved from where I'd left them. My car keys on the kitchen counter instead of my bedside table, my phone charger unplugged and coiled under the sofa. When I confronted her, she'd either deny it vehemently or accuse me of being paranoid, a bitter irony. Then the messages started. Anonymous texts to my friends, hinting at fabricated scandals about me. One friend called, bewildered and hurt, asking if it was true I'd been talking about her behind her back. My attempts to explain Lena's behavior were met with skepticism. She was so good at appearing fragile and harmless to others. I was losing my support system, slowly, surely, isolated in my own apartment with a woman who had become my tormentor. The terror escalated when she shattered my favorite mug. I came home to find it in pieces on the kitchen floor, shards of ceramic glinting maliciously. Lena was curled on the couch, sobbing. I tripped. I'm so clumsy. I'm so sorry, I'll replace it. Her eyes, however, were dry, and a faint, almost imperceptible smirk played on her lips. It wasn't an accident. It was a warning. A deliberate act of destruction, showing me what she was capable of. I called the police, my hands shaking. They listened patiently, their faces impassive as I recounted the increasingly bizarre and threatening behavior. But without any direct physical threat or tangible evidence of a crime, their hands were tied. It's a civil matter, the officer said, advising me to pursue eviction through legal channels. Eviction. Against someone who knew my every habit, my every weakness, who was already inside my home. The thought was paralyzing. I felt trapped, the walls of my apartment closing in. I started sleeping with my bedroom door locked, a ridiculous gesture against someone who already held a key, the key she'd hidden under the cushion. I hid a small, sharp knife under my pillow. Paranoia, the very thing I accused her of, had become my constant companion. One evening, I received a chilling text message from an unknown number. Heard you're having trouble with your guest. Maybe you should just give her what she wants. My blood ran cold. How did someone know? Who was she? Was Lena working with someone? Was there a dark past she'd dragged into my life? The text wasn't just a threat. It was a confirmation that I was no longer alone in this twisted game. I decided then that I had to act. I couldn't wait for legal proceedings. I felt like I was running out of time. I needed her out, tonight. I waited until she was asleep, or seemed to be. The apartment was dark, silent, save for the rhythmic creak of the floorboards under my stealthy steps. I found her phone charging on the coffee table. My fingers fumbled as I picked it up, unlocking it. I scrolled through her recent messages, my heart hammering. There were dozens of deleted messages to a contact simply labeled H. I managed to retrieve one. It read, "He's on to us. I need to make sure he doesn't tell anyone about everything." Everything. The word echoed in my mind. What everything? My breath hitched. This was more than instability. This was something darker, something planned. As I scrolled further, a picture flashed on the screen, a candid shot of me sleeping in my bed, taken from the doorway. My blood ran cold. The knife under my pillow suddenly felt woefully inadequate. This wasn't just about control, it was about something far more sinister. My hands flew to the light switch, flipping it on. The sudden glare illuminated Lena, sitting upright on the couch, her eyes wide open, fixed on me. She hadn't been asleep. She'd been watching me. Waiting. "You really think you're going to get rid of me that easily?" she whispered, her voice devoid of its usual wavering vulnerability, replaced by a chillingly steady tone. "After all I've done for you. After I saved you." "Saved me from what?" I demanded, my voice trembling, but I stood my ground. The revelation of the photo, the recovered text, had stripped away the last vestiges of my fear and replaced it with a cold, hard anger. She laughed, a harsh, dry sound that grated on my nerves. "From yourself, of course. You were so naive, so trusting. I was just protecting you." She rose slowly, gracefully, a predator finally shedding its disguise. "But you've become a problem. An obstacle." Lena took a step toward me, her eyes glinting in the stark light. "You see, there are things you don't know about me. Things I've done. Things I had to do. And you're starting to get too close." My gaze darted to the front door, then to the kitchen. No escape. Not yet. I knew then that this wasn't just about her leaving. It was about survival. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "To tie up loose ends," she replied, her smile widening into a terrifying rictus. "And you, darling, are the loosest of ends." As she lunged, I instinctively threw my phone at her face. It bounced off her forehead with a satisfying thud, buying me a precious second. I sprinted for the kitchen, grabbing the heaviest frying pan I could find. She was fast, surprisingly strong, but adrenaline coursed through my veins, sharpening my senses. She followed, a low growl escaping her lips. "You can't escape me." I swung the pan wildly, connecting with her arm. She cried out, stumbling back. That was my chance. I lunged for the front door, fumbling with the deadbolt. My own key, the one she had hidden, was still in the lock. I twisted it, praying. The door burst open, and I tumbled out into the hallway, screaming. Lena was right behind me, a furious banshee, but my screams had done their job. Lights flickered on in neighboring apartments. A door creaked open down the hall. Lena froze, her eyes wide with sudden panic. The illusion of control had shattered. She tried to attack me. I shrieked, pointing at her, my voice raw. For a moment, she seemed to consider another lunge, a final, desperate act. But the light spilling from my neighbor's door, the curious eyes peering out, stopped her. The mask of vulnerability snapped back into place. Her face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. "He's crazy," she wailed, pointing at me. "He tried to hurt me. He's delusional." But I knew the truth, and now, finally, so did the world. My neighbor, a kind elderly woman, quickly called the police. This time, with witnesses and my now visible terror, they took it seriously. Lena was taken away, still protesting her innocence, still weeping, but her power over me was broken. The apartment felt hollow after she was gone, a vast, echoing space filled with the ghosts of my fear. It took weeks for the trembling to stop, for the jumpiness to subside. I changed the locks, installed a security system, and started therapy. The everything Lena had alluded to remained a mystery, but the police found enough evidence on her phone and through her past erratic behavior to confirm my story. She was gone for good. I am no longer her safety net. And in reclaiming my home, I had, at long last, reclaimed myself. The scars remained, a stark reminder of how close I came to losing everything, but so did the newfound strength, the unshakable resolve that I would never again let misplaced empathy blind me to the true nature of a threat. The door to my apartment was now firmly closed, not just against Lena, but against the insidious darkness she had brought with her.